Hello, everybody. Just a quick little content warning today. We are going to be discussing the porn industry, and there's a lot of stronger than usual language that we usually have. It's a delightful conversation, but if that makes you uncomfortable, you can listen to the first part of the show through Fat Watch, and then if you want to skip after that, feel free. Otherwise, enjoy.
Welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. I'm Trevor Keyson. I'm a super chub, and I'm a toasty boy today because we're recording in the afternoon, and my office kind of turns into a little sunbox.
My name is Michael. I am a chaser, and like Trevor, I am I'm a sweaty, hardworking work boy right now. It's a little roasty in here, and well, suffice it to say, the show's about to get a little steamy, but more on that later.
My name is Don. I am a big chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood, and today I am a cool boy because I've got the AC on, I've got the fan on, and I'm not wearing pants. So, yay!
My name is Dan Oliverio, an author, public speaker, and chubby chaser, and I got to go to the gym today before we recorded, so I'm a little overheated.
Oh, boy. This is going to be a fun episode.
We got a show for you, folks.
To get to. Yeah, we've done our traditional format of recording the interview first. So we're coming off of the high of a rollicking conversation. But before we get to that, we've got good news. We have good stories today.
Week. Good news coming out of England, of all places.
Oh my God!
Spoilers.
Never.
Come on, we got to get.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Before we get to England. Oh, we go to space, the final frontier.
Deep space.
So there is a new Star Trek show coming out to Paramount Plus called Star Trek Prodigy, and it is animated. And the reason I am including it is because there is some body diversity in the cast by way of not just them being aliens, but there are, I would say, like 2.5 fat characters. They haven't released the names. Or I guess all of the species in this new Star Trek show are new to the Star Trek universe. But I was just thrilled to see, like, there's 2 fat characters, a gelatinous alien,
and sort of half,
and a round robot.
Yeah. So the synopsis of the show is Star Trek Prodigy. We'll follow a motley crew of young aliens who must figure out how to work together while navigating a greater galaxy in search for a better future. These 6 young outcasts know nothing about the ship they have commandeered, a first in the history of the Star Trek franchise, but over the course of their adventures together, they will each be introduced to Starfleet and the ideals it represents. So sort of a scrappy band of adventurers.
Isn't an animated Catherine Janeway in this show?
Yes.
She's the anchor.
Yeah.
But I got to say, I'm pleased to see it because, you know what? Star Trek owes me some good fat characters. Because all they've ever given me are the race of Packlids, the large, fat, dumb people. That was their defining characteristic. So Star Trek, you got to do better.
Yep.
Well, didn't we talk about one?
We did.
I haven't watched Discovery, but you guys did mention.
Tilly is, I don't know. She's not fat. She's just human. But she's just she's a wonderful character. She is not a size 2. And she's, I think, one of the most wonderful things about Star Trek
I really
Discovery.
hesitate to call her fat because she's just very body normal.
Well,
exactly.
As far as representation goes, she's taking flack for her size.
Yes. Because everyone else on the show weighs about 13 pounds.
Well, it's Hollywood. That's what that is.
But yeah, so this is exciting, and especially, I mean, it's a animated show, so they can look literally like however you want them to. It's nice to see that they made the choices they did.
Exactly. So on Fat Watch,
cruising right
we've
along
been promised
to
to England.
Fat Watch 2021.
Well, and the reason I said
news on the Fat Watch.
And the reason I said that is because I don't know. I just get so distressed that a lot of the really horrific news tends to come out of either China or England. And we've talked about 2 horrible things that came out of England recently, but this is actually a good thing. This is turning the corner. The MP, a committee of MPs, which is the British Parliament, is calling for the end of BMI as a marker of health, to stop using that as a marker of health, and that it principally just contributes to eating disorders.
Wow.
It's
Do we have a sense of the traction this is getting? Like, is this?
I do not, and I'd like to see what that is. Like, is this just, oh yeah, some women hollering about weight, so what? Or if it's actually being taken seriously.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, because either way, it's a good thing, but it would be fantastic to see it sort of like take the world by storm by total accident.
God bless them for trying, but I see an uphill battle against that one. There's a lot of money tied up in keeping BMI front and center.
Well, especially in England, where again, because of the National Health Service, it is one of their, it is a what do you call that? A tent post.
Pillar?
Tent pole.
Pillar?
Pillar. Yeah, it's a pillar. Let's go with pillar, Michael. It's a
Good job, Dan.
tent pole. I know what Dan's trying to say.
It's tent pole, right? Yeah,
I
it's
think
just
so.
it's one of the things that is just holding up their whole medical ethics, is that fat people need to be stopped and defatted.
Much like pillars.
How do you defat a pillar?
No, I think we have only had pretty negative news coming out of Britain. So this is a welcome. In fact, it bumped the original Fat Watch for this
Yes.
week. It was like such a delightful surprise.
Take that, Lena Dunham. I just love that, like, it's so bizarre, just given, like, the last thing out of England was like the child snatchers driving around and scooping up fat children because, like, you're bad, you're fat, we're gonna put you in the orphanage. And
I'm sorry,
There's no neutral news
Isn't that
anymore.
the plot of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
yes.
Yeah, basically. There's no neutral news anymore. It's either everything is great or everything is terrible. So, if our show seems up, down, up, down, up, down,
Blame the world.
don't blame us.
Yes.
Blame the world. Yeah, we're just the messengers. So, speaking of porn stars, we have a special episode today. We have a couple guests on the show that we're really excited to talk to. But before we get to that, there's sort of a setup here that Don had this idea a couple months ago, actually, to reach out to people in the adult film community, in our community, in the Chub Chaser community, and try and start some conversations there. And Don, why don't you set that up for us a little bit? What was the thought process behind that?
Well, so originally my thought process was, okay, I can smell the end of the pandemic coming up. And the reason why I could tell that is because I started getting invitations to pool parties in August and September. And I admit, like, I started getting really anxious about it because I'm already, pre-pandemic, I was already a little uncomfortable going to a pool party. And then post-pandemic, like, I am not at my best right now. I feel it's safe to say. So I started getting a lot of anxiety about it. And then I started thinking about, like, I know there are people out there like me who do porn, who have enormous followings. And I wanted to know the secret to your confidence and your ability to just live in your skin so comfortably. And I wanted to find out if you started in a place like me or if you ended up wandering there somehow. And then, of course, just, it's porn. Always curious.
So who did we decide to talk to? We should introduce these boys.
Yeah, so on the show, we have with us Brad and Jim, who are a couple. You might know them as BigBearNChaser on Twitter, Pornhub, and formerly XTube until they wiped out 3/4 of their entire library.
No.
And yeah, just leveled the playing field. And they also have their own film review podcast called the Movie Bears Podcast, which is fantastic. You guys should absolutely go check it out if that's anything even remotely what you're interested in. They're amazing. Welcome to the show, Brad and Jim. Thanks for coming.
Oh, thanks, Michael.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. So glad to be here.
It's so good to have you here.
Yeah, we're thrilled, especially we can come on a podcast and talk to, people in our community that we've been kind of apart from for the last 13 months. So,
Oh my God, yeah.
some friendly faces here. That's awesome.
I'm just saying, if we don't see all of you in a pool sometime as soon as it's safe, that's a problem.
Well, stay tuned. Big Bayou 2021.
There we go.
We'll circle back around to that. So as Don was saying, like, I think there's a lot of different viewpoints on like body acceptance, body image, and that translates directly into sex and porn and visibility and seeing fat bodies in the world at large or not. And it, as Dom was kind of implying, I feel like it takes a lot of, I don't know, like maybe bravery is not quite the right word, but a lot of like,
I believe the term you're looking for is chutzpah.
Chutzpah, balls, like
balls.
to put yourself out there so boldly. How did that start? I guess let's start with there. What's the beginning of this story? When did you guys first start doing that?
So it's funny actually. We didn't set out to like create a big porn following or anything. Jim and I were dating long distance back in 2009, and we got to see each other every couple weeks or so. And one time we were getting a little funky on the couch, and Jim was kind of like, "It might be fun to record this to enjoy when we're apart from each other." And I was like, "Well, all right, I guess, but is it just for us?" And context, back then, I was not as comfortable in my skin as I am now. So I was like, all right, well, if it's just us, that's great. But afterward, we're watching the video back, and Jim is like, actually, this is really hot. We should totally put this online. What do you think about that? And I'm like, well, my face isn't in it. So, okay, why not? No one's going to recognize us. 3 hours after the video was online, we heard from like 10 people who were like, Brad, I know that's you in that video. I recognize the piece of shirt that was showing. And
Oh my God.
that's Jim's wristwatch. So at that point, the jig was up. Like people knew that we were doing that, and people seemed to enjoy it. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. Like I knew the Chub Chaser thing was a thing, but I didn't quite realize that like people really vociferously wanted to see that kind of content on XTube. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was really surprising when, we have this video and it's just showing the action, right? And it's not showing our faces at all. And people are still like, is that you guys in that video here? And I'm like, should we tell them it's us, or should we just lie and say it's not us? And then I think, and I think over time we're like, okay, so if people are here watching this stuff, then they're here for a reason. They're not like, straight friends or coworkers that stumble across XTube videos about, big men and chasers. So
yeah,
I think we kind of convinced ourselves that it would be safe to kind of cross that barrier of, putting our identities kind of out there.
Was
that
that
video?
Was that a big concern? Was it like, if our coworkers find out, oh, well, or was it like, oh my God, they can never find out?
For me, I was working remotely at the time, and, working for a big tech company that I really don't think would care about those things as long as I'm not going on TV, like to represent them and be like, by the way, I also do porn. But it's interesting. I never ever thought that like there would be like crossover anyway, that anyone would ever find that stuff until at Bigger Vegas, like 6 years ago, I get a call from my sister. And I'm like, hey sis, what's up? And she's like, hey, weird question for you, but do you and Jim do porn?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And she's like, well, one of my coworkers apparently follows you guys on XTube. And so you have the, super hot porn, and, he can't believe that like, I know you. And I'm like, okay,
no. No.
I love that.
I'm getting so anxious just listening to this.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, jig is up. Yeah, we do porn and we put it out there, and please don't watch it, sis.
And by the way, I want to kill your friend. Coming to you and saying, this is your brother I saw.
Who says that to somebody's sister? Like, seriously?
No, what I love about this is it's actually the best and the worst of both. It's fantastic because on the one hand, okay, a close family member finds out you do porn, and they find out that you have fans, and one of their friends is a fan, and like you couldn't ask for a better coming out in a way.
No, I have to say, gentle listener, don't do that. I think that's like the least chill thing.
Yeah.
Outing is bad of any kind.
I don't think that the intent was to out. I think it was just bald-faced excitement.
Yeah, I think that's.
I think it was too. Like, oh my God, your brother's, internet porn famous. And
That's the coolest
Yeah.
thing in the world. You
Yeah.
know him?
Well-
I love that.
And yeah, let's not dance around the subject. Like, you guys are very popular. You have
Yes.
millions, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views across both your videos and the videos that people have taken and put elsewhere on their own. Like, very, very visible. I don't know at the time how broad it was, but definitely like very widely watched.
Well, oh yeah, go ahead, babe.
I was just gonna say, it's like was never like the reason. Like, we're not guys who need to be famous or want to be famous. It's not why we do it. We enjoy making the videos. We certainly enjoy hearing from people coming up to us at events like Bigger Vegas or Chub Fest in Palm Springs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And saying, "Oh, you're the guys from the videos," and that still happens. Like, people who wouldn't normally meet us or even, want to talk to us for whatever reason, but they recognize you. Now you've kind of made a friend. You know what I mean? And it's been great socially for us to meet people through that. We certainly don't promote it on our own. Outside of the videos themselves, we're not promoters. I mean, neither one of us. We're both on Twitter. Neither one of us has like a OFF or what's the other one?
Just
Patreon?
for something. Just for
Just
fans.
Just for fans.
JFF. And
Yeah.
I mean,
and no denigrating anybody who
No,
does. It's something we do for fun, and we do because people like to watch it, and we have a little bit of an exhibitionism streak, maybe. So if they, want to see some hot action, maybe we can help provide that. So.
I do sometimes wonder how much money we were leaving on the table. I have no idea how much money there is in that stuff. I'm kind of afraid to even ask, like, how much money do people make with this stuff? Because then it would take the fun out of it, I think, a little bit.
Well, I mean, it is often monetized. And if you're not monetizing it, I don't think you want to ask that question because it's a lot.
I often wondered, like, with the OnlyFans model, where it's a subscription-based service, and if you're a couple on there, the pressure that it puts on you to be constantly making videos, posting them on a schedule, like, it turns it into a business that you can engage with as much as you want, but people just leave if you don't stay with it. And it feels like that would add a lot of pressure to be just constantly churning something out.
Well, it's funny, Michael, because even not doing an OnlyFans or Just for Fans, there's, at least for us, there's been a lot of pressure. Like, we hear from so many like faceless, pictureless, videoless profiles that are like, you haven't posted a new video in exactly 3 weeks, 5 days, 27 minutes, and 18 seconds. We need a new video now. And, it's fun that people enjoy the content, but you're right. When it starts to feel like something that is a job or it's giving you anxiety, it's not fun anymore. And that's why we do it, so.
Well, I think one of the things that comes along with, let's call it a celebrity status, which is a nicer way of saying sometimes objectification, is that people feel like they own you. I'm sure you've experienced that. They feel like they own you, whether or not they're paying for it. Like you owe them you.
Yeah, and you owe them fresh content all the time, right?
Yeah.
The other side of that coin, though, I don't like that feeling, Dan. You're right, but the other side of that coin is when somebody would come to you who you might find attractive, saying, "Oh man, I really want to make a video with you or make a video with you guys." So not only is it a way to make friends, but obviously there's an added benefit there of, people who maybe just don't have the chutzpah to kind of make their own thing. They want to kind of join in, they might want to join in. And we haven't done a lot of that in actuality, especially in the last, 14 months, but certainly something we'd like to hear and might occasionally consider.
Well, and I think it's important to say that the people who come up to you, you're not charging for this. People are loving it. From my perspective, you're doing God's work. You're giving. It's a service that people get to see themselves. People in our community get to see themselves in erotic situations, in erotic activity, and that's important. I mean, Michael mentioned visibility before, and I think it's really important that people be able to see themselves. And I think that's part of what you're experiencing when people come up to you, is that sort of gratitude.
Yeah, Dan, absolutely. And the whole see themselves thing, though, it can go to another level. Pre-COVID, of course, when we would, meet someone interesting and bring them back to our house, there's this thing where they're like looking around. All, and it's like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, we're looking for the cameras. And it's like, no, we would tell you if the cameras were available.
Yeah, that's freaked me out too a couple times. Like, people actually truthfully thinking that because the only time they see us having sex is on a video, they assume that when if I was having sex with them or we were having sex with them, that it is on a video, that it is being recorded.
Well, just let them know they have to sign the NDA first. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. And like 12 forms in triplicate for Pornhub and Xtube nowadays. If you're gonna,
and it's strictly performance-based compensation at that point too.
Well, what do you guys think makes your content unique? Like, why you? What brings people to you?
Well, I mean, certainly in the community, right? Our community, Chub Chaser community. I have probably the hottest husband that I could imagine, and other people might think so too. Other chasers, but here's what I think it is. I think in most of our videos, I like to think that some kind of personal connection comes through, or emotional connection between us comes through. It isn't just a hard cock and a hole and, bang, bang, and that's it. Usually, I mean, we try, and no, we're not scripting anything, but I think there's some kind of, extra like personal angle to it. I think that's kind of what maybe separates our stuff. Brad,
yeah,
agree?
Yeah, babe, that's a good point. And also, thank you for saying that. You're incredibly sweet. I love and adore you so much, sweetheart. I happen to think the same. I have a very hot husband myself, inside and out. I would agree, though. It's interesting. We know some other folks who, make videos as well, and they actually edit out like the personal moments of like a little smile at each other or saying "I love you," or because they feel like those things maybe take away from what people want to see, which is, the hard cock jamming in and out of that hungry hole. But for us, we like to leave those things in because we do love each other. And this is really just capturing a moment in our lives, I think, when we're, being intimate with each other. So there's certainly a big component of that. That said, though, we do try to up the production value a little bit by making sure that, the lighting is adequate. It's hard to watch that hard cock if there's no light, to let you see what's happening. But we also sometimes film with 2 or 3 cameras. We'll have like a couple set up on tripods, around the bed, and then we'll have a handheld that we'll pass around. And that's fun because we have a lot of different angles that we can work with and edit together. But sometimes it does kind of take you out of the process a little bit too. And it's like, I love you so much, babe. Yeah, rail my hole. That feels so good. Here, take the camera and film it POV.
Wait, did we just move out of frame? We got to stop. You know what I mean?
Hold on. Let's reset back to 1.
Yeah,
all right, everybody.
And it's a fine line we walk between kind of really staying in that that moment of being excited and turned on, and thinking about the shot, and did the battery die, and all that stuff. So that has happened, and I think it's a fine line because I prefer to kind of keep it simple from the production side, so that we can focus on each other, right, and make the actual content shine instead of the production value. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
no, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, it's even more of what I was saying about people want to see that. People, I mean, if a lot of chub chaser porn or bear porn can be that mechanical fucking, but that's not as authentic, or I don't know. I'm going to say inspirational, because people aspire to have a relationship in our community like that. Mm-hmm. And they aspire to have a partner who is sexual and intimate and loving, and to see that it's not only possible, it's actual. I think it's huge.
I feel like that's the whole, to me, that feels like the whole point of the sort of amateur porn revolution that happened online, which is you used to have only produced, paid for high production value porn. And now you have couples and solos doing their own thing with a level of authenticity that did not exist before. And I feel like that is the draw. Like if you want pre-produced, like, you know, no real emotional connection, like just watch two guys fuck, like that's out there too. And so by contrast, you can also find real couples who are in love with each other and are doing this like you guys do, which does create a unique experience. And I feel like that's kind of the point of online porn for a lot of people, at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's not to say that when I've watched videos of other people that I haven't fast forwarded through all that other stuff just to get to, I mean, I will be totally transparent about that.
Sometimes you just have a job to
That's
do.
right.
That's right.
You've got 10 minutes for your gentleman's time, and when that time is up, it's up. So you gotta hurry it along.
And that includes cleanup.
That's true. That's true.
So obviously you guys are kind of a beacon of representation when it comes to porn, but how do you see fat male representation being served or thwarted in mainstream media? Are there any examples you really like or just kind of find egregious?
Boy, as a chaser, that's something I look for a lot when I see a big guy character in anything pop up. I'm like, ooh, he's really cute. What are we going to get out of him? And then typically we'll get the worst scenario is, he just ends up being kind of the butt of, of the jokes. He's the, the stereotypical slow guy who eats a lot, holds down the group, holds up the group from doing whatever they need to do. To more subtle things like, you'll have all these characters hooking up, in romantic scenes, but never the big guy, never, you know what I mean? Never gets that moment on the screen. And that's disappointing, obviously for me, but there's obviously a bias there that it's disappointing, but it's also enraging a little bit. Like these people don't get equal weight, pardon the pun, in terms of script and in terms of ideas in a story. It's just kind of crazy. Brad, I know you have the same thing when it comes to hairy people.
Well, I mean, we all have the things that we like, and whether it's heavy men, hairy men, whatever that is, we like, I think, to be able to see those things represented on TV and in movies and ads and whatever. And it's interesting, even like a muscular bearish type that you might see on a TV show. There's a pool scene and it's like, yes, he's finally going to be shirtless and jump in that pool. I can't wait to see that. Everyone else is shirtless, but the bear, for some reason, is wearing a muscle shirt into the pool. And it's like, you're 6 feet and 240 pounds. It's not like you're, a huge guy. Like, why are they making him keep his shirt on? I don't get it. And I have a wide range of guys that I like too. I don't know if any of you folks are Game of Thrones fans, possibly. Okay.
Oh, yes. Raving
two.
fanboy.
Yes. All right. So the Samuel Tarly character, the actor who played him.
So good.
So good, right? And also very cute. And so Jim and myself are watching Game of Thrones for 7 fucking seasons, whatever it was, excuse my language.
3 times.
We just need a shirtless
Holy
scene.
shit.
We need a shirtless scene. Like, oh, he's going to have sex now. This is awesome. He's going to get shirtless. Nope. The whole thing takes place with all of his clothes on.
And to top it all off, he was like one of the few stable, loving, healthy relationships there.
Right.
It would have been nice to have seen that represented sexually, but
Absolutely. I'm like, if I can watch 7 seasons of like perky tits and big female booties, like why can't I see a big guy with a shirt on?
And not only that, I mean, they make him dress up in this giant coat that like from, I don't know, like that's down to his knees and, makes him look like a Dalek. Robot, basically. The coat never comes off, even during his sex scene. Which, yeah.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
The coat, the giant coat.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yep.
It's
And
nuts.
so that's one bad example. You guys watch Cobra Kai at all?
love it.
Don did.
Paul Walter Hauser.
Yes.
That was an uncomfortable
We know him well.
role.
It was, although I just actually listened to that episode, which you recorded on my birthday, by the way. Thank you for that birthday
Happy
gift.
birthday.
About Paul Walter Hauser. And I love that you bring that up, Jim, because even though the character was weird and problematic, He was wearing a karate gi with all that chest hair popping out all the time.
You mean beating up high school kids in the school? Is that what you're talking about?
I mean, that might
problematic?
be problematic. I don't know.
But he was doing it while
But he
hot.
looked hot doing it. Exactly.
Right, exactly.
But at least he wasn't eating a fucking salami sandwich and
That's true.
sulking in the corner.
Man.
Yeah.
That drives me crazy because it's like,
Yep.
I think a lot of people just assume, oh, you're a big guy. You must be a gainer. You must be someone I, want to see eating. And I don't know, like, at least in our community, obviously there's a place for that and no shame to that at all. But it's just weird, like in movies and film, if there's a big guy, it's like they have to be seen eating a messy hot dog or a messy sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
Or,
Yeah. Well, and I think it goes the other way too. Jim, do you experience this where if you're a chaser, you must want to see a big guy eat because why else would you be with him?
I mean, I think that's what the community thinks I want.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not that that's true, but just the expectation.
I love big men. I mean, I like everything about big men, right? I don't like one particular aspect generally. So whenever I see characters like, what's his character on the show? Help me out. Stingray? What is it?
Stingray. Yeah.
I think that's.
Is it Stingray?
Are we back on Cobra Kai?
Yeah. I don't think it's very overt what they're doing with that character, but there was definitely some at the beginning, like, oh, here's the big guy who's signing up for karate. He can't be any good. He's big. You know what I mean? He's big. And it was there. It was more subtle than I've seen in a lot of shows, thankfully, but still, it was there.
As a side note, I can't help but point out that in the third season, both the fat characters are just gone.
Oh, I know.
They're written off with one sentence in the first episode.
The girl, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I loved her character.
She was amazing.
She was great. Yeah.
One of the few times I've really seen myself in a show like that.
Well, I think that's because so often in those shows, the character arc of the fat character, if they're not going to be just comic relief and eat themselves through the scenery, the arc of the character isn't it amazing how they're not stupid and incompetent? And once you've shown that, they have no function anymore. They're not of story value anymore.
Right.
Yeah, you've done your social justice good work for the season. They can fuck right off.
Now get out of here, you fat fuck. No one wants to see
Exactly. we don't need you anymore.
That's right. Literally happened in an anime I watched this morning. Like this woman whose magic powers come through food has been getting larger and larger over the course of the season. Everyone keeps making more and more fun of her. And then when the big demon enemy at the end tries to kill her, she transforms into a beautiful, lithe, thin woman who now has all the power that her fat larval form gave her. It was just like,
What?
oh, fuck you. But I feel like that's a common theme in a lot of these shows where even if it's not during the show, like the mean, competent character was fat as in the prehistory or that sort of thing.
You know what I want to see, Don? Because I love anime as well. And I think back to some of the old Sailor Moon cartoons. For once, I want to see the like skinny, pretty girl or guy go through a transformation sequence with sparkles and rainbows and ribbons. And it turns them into a big person who is
that'd be awesome.
beautiful. How neat would that be? That would be such a cool reversal.
The closest I can offer up to that is A Bug's Life. Do you remember the big bug goes into the cocoon? And when he comes out, he's still a big bug, but he can fly now. You know?
Is it Heimlich?
It was amazing.
A beautiful butterfly.
Yes, exactly.
I love Heimlich.
Well, it's one of the few times where a fat character doesn't have to sacrifice their body in order to become powerful or amazing or interesting. You know, it made me happy. Sorry, tangent. You put me
No, it's fine. And I'm trying to think of a really good example of a large guy or a big guy or person being used in the show other than for their large body. I mean, we just watched a whole movie called Best Summer Ever that has both abled people and disabled or differently abled people in it. And never did they call attention to any of the disabilities in any of the characters, which was fucking amazing. If they could do that with fat people, big people, I would be over the moon. Maybe you guys have an example, but I couldn't think of one off the top of my head.
We talked about this on the podcast before. It might come up again next week in the Chubbies. But super intelligence with Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah.
So there is such a diverse cast in the sense of there are so many fat people in the movie, and it's not a thing. It's just they exist. There are fat people. It is normal.
I'm going to talk
And, like,
all about it next week.
Yeah. That's
wonderful.
And like, that's my goal. Like, I think that's the goal is like, it is just a thing, like not a thing. It's just there.
Well,
People can be fat without it being like they're stupid or they're on a journey to not be fat anymore. Like
What's the thing that just came out, Trevor, with Melissa McCarthy?
Thunder Force.
Thunder
Right.
Force. If you want to see a fat girl throw a city bus,
Yes.
you go see Thunder
Oh,
Force.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
And
Yeah,
who
I'm
doesn't
dying
want to
to.
see a fat girl throw a city bus? I mean,
Absolutely.
Yes.
let's just say.
On my bucket list.
I have one really great example that I can think of. Lilo and Stitch. So
Oh, yeah.
Dean DeBois,
Yeah.
who wrote and directed Lilo and Stitch, includes this moment where Lilo walks up and sees a big guy with an ice cream cone on the beach, and she's just like, "You're beautiful." And it's not from like a weird child sexual thing. It's just she's just like, "Oh my God, you're a stunning person." I remember seeing that in college before I found the Chub Chaser community, and I was like, "Wait, what? Like that can be a thing?" And that's actually
Yeah.
one of the things that helped me find it. I just did a web search. Back then, it was Netscape that you went to.
Oh, yeah.
And I just searched for Big as
That's a
Beautiful.
throwback.
Yeah, and I found all these like BBW, big beautiful women, big handsome men.
Mhm.
So thank goodness there are some things like that, even if few and far between, to introduce people, I think, to the idea.
All the big Vikings in How to Train Your Dragon.
Yes, How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah, again, Dean, amazing.
Well,
film.
because Dean is of our community and and that's something that's important to him.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I'm wondering what you think of there's your porn, and we've talked about like how I think that, firstly for me, I think it serves an amazing function. It serves a really valuable purpose. But in general, how do you guys see porn? Do you see it as a way to as like this idealized fantasy that people can get behind and aspire to? Do you see it as necessarily objectifying people and taking them away from intimacy? Have you managed? It sounds like you kind of managed to split the difference. But what do you think of the industry or what's out there? Because you see a lot of it.
I'm gonna let Brad take this one.
I mean, I love porn. Porn is amazing. It serves a wonderful purpose. Sometimes you got 3 minutes to do a job, like we said earlier. Porn has got you covered. Sometimes you can take your time. It's absolutely wonderful. I think, though, like with anything, there is a potential downside, though. With porn, it's great because you can kind of fantasize yourself into the scene that you're watching. Or you can be like, oh, man, I really love that chaser. He's so hot. I want to somehow meet him someday. But it can cross the line between sort of that healthy stuff. And Dan, you mentioned objectification. That's such a great word, because we've even seen it when we're at events. I think, Dan, we saw you at MCA several years ago. And someone came up to me at that event who was like, oh my gosh, we really love your videos. They're super hot. It was like, oh, thanks. Really glad you like it. And like, as we're talking, the hand just inches closer and closer across the water until he's rubbing my belly, which, all right, consent is sexy, but like we're at an event, we're in a pool. Okay. But then all of a sudden his hand was going to my dick. Didn't ask for permission. It's not like we were making out first, you know what I mean? To initiate things. He just assumed that because I had done porn, that like it must be completely okay to reach out and just start doing what I wanted.
I hate to burst your bubble, but he would have done that even if you hadn't done porn.
Well,
there
maybe.
is an authorization that chasers give themselves, which is quite distasteful. That we're at an event and you're on the buffet. But I think that could probably be heightened if he's seen you in sexual positions. He's imagined himself in those situations with you, and now he's just following through on the pool and in his name.
Yeah,
and you obviously, in his mind, want it to happen. So
right,
otherwise you wouldn't be doing porn.
I mean, I think it's. I think it's kind of a mixture of both, because, I mean, I've experienced that exact. Crossing of lines.
Oh yeah.
And there's someone in the community who is very known for this behavior that I'm not going to say, but
him.
People know, listener.
I think I know already, Trevor.
Yeah. But just like, okay. So like, I'm like, sure, but like, that's very bold.
Guys, I'm right here. You don't have to talk.
And it's like, and I think it's the thing where like, when someone, even like, we talk a lot about objectification in the podcast, but like, I have a profile on BigBearCity and someone spends a lot of time, jerking off to the pictures I have there, and they create this, they have this one-sided experience of intimacy or even just like erotic fantasy, and it has been built up. So they're just like, okay, like it's so insular that they don't get that like it's one-sided.
Yeah. Trevor, if you don't mind a question, I'm just curious because you're a very handsome big man as well. Do you ever feel like you're like a belly support system, like just a walking belly on legs? That's your only purpose?
Yes, but I don't know. As long as the objectification is consensual, which usually it is, because I've talked about, I do like being objectified. There have been times where it's just like in the pool at Bigger Vegas, it's a whole other thing. The sexual temperature's turned up, but I've had I'm in the hospitality suite, and it is like, I feel like that is like a more like, okay, we're here to be like social human adults. And someone comes up to me and talking to them, and like, they're not listening, the gaze is down and they're just lifting up my shirt. And I'm like, oh, like, no, okay, no, like, hey,
down boy.
Like, thank you, but
yeah.
Thank you, but no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you do get that sense of dog humping your leg in those settings.
It can be that way sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder if what that indicates is that the objectification is not in the medium. The objectification is not in the porn, it's in the viewer, because they seem to take that wherever they go.
Yeah.
I think there's, go ahead, babe.
Go ahead. And I think that, the objectification, especially the physical objectification, sometimes I think it can be more, fetishized through porn, right? I mean, because there's such a varied, there's so many different categories of even big guy porn, right? There's belly porn, there's ass porn, there's, cum porn, whatever you like. So a person out there with a specific fetish or fetishes can zoom in on those things, and maybe that reinforces their fetish a little bit, so that when they do get in a real world situation, it's hard for them to kind of think of, hey, this is a real person that has things outside of my fetish areas that, are valuable and beautiful and, worth discovering. But yeah, maybe porn, look, our sexual side as humans is a beautiful thing. It's a gift, right, from God. Like this is something that we're here to enjoy. And I think porn is, as long as it's healthy and nobody is being harmed in the making of it, and it's legal, I think it's all great. I think there's too much of a negative connotation around porn because of the outliers, right? The bad stuff that's happened in that world. But I think that, I think it's perfectly natural. I think I love that porn is available to us. But like I said, I think it can be, in specific cases of maybe fetish objectification, it can be taken a little too far.
Yeah, I think it's just a really great point that it kind of comes down to the user sometimes. Dan, you had mentioned that certain behavior from chasers, that authorization. I would even say just people in general, because when they're in the fantasy of watching porn, they have a certain view of how they want things to go and who they want that to happen with. I think that behavior can be universally applicable. I think people just sometimes have a problem separating the mental fantasy from the real logistics of maybe meeting that person.
It's one of the things I was wondering about. It's because you can go find your fantasy, your specific fantasy, so many different ways delivered just for you. Do you start to expect that's just how things are supposed to work in an ideal situation?
And that you expect that out of everybody that you find attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm put in mind of the American who goes to Europe or France. In America, it is, I would joke with my international students that in America, it's almost impossible to find an American who will just order the dish as it's written on the menu. Americans have to adapt it. I'd like it with this on the side, or no, not that, or this. And you can't really do that in Europe. And so I think this also translates into our porn. Like what you were saying, Don, this is how I order it. when I get it in America, and this is how I expect it to show up. And then you go to France and they're like, no, it doesn't come that way. You can't have it like that.
Dan, have you been eavesdropping on our drive-through experiences?
Don't get him started. Don't get him started. No, I think that's such a fantastic thing to call out because I see it happen for me personally. I'm on the BDSM spectrum. I'm a dominant chub. Sexually, I'm mostly top. And so there are folks that reach out sometimes because I have produced some content like that are like, oh my God, I'd love for you to tie me up when we get together. That'd be amazing. And I'm like, I've got 8 kinds of rope. Which kind should we use? But then you get there and all of a sudden what started out as like, I'm just going to tie this up and we're going to have some fun becomes this like order from the menu thing of, well, do you have handcuffs? Do you use the handcuffs? Do you have black handcuffs or silver handcuffs? You use silver handcuffs. And so,
man, I am so familiar with this. It's ridiculous.
Are you? Have you had some experiences?
Oh yeah. It's like, I want you to dominate me, but now I want to run the show. Like, no, that's not how this goes.
But do this to me. Yeah.
You clearly do not understand power exchange. Okay.
Well, it's because it's only ever been in their head.
Right.
And it's always been exclusively what's been in their head. And so it's you feel like you are just there to fulfill a masturbation fantasy.
Yeah. And for them, I think this could be my only chance to fulfill the fantasies I've had for, however long. And so I damn well better ask for what I want and get what I want.
Got to get your money's worth.
But even if there's no money involved.
That's exactly. But that's back to when I said about how they feel like you owe them because you exist in a public setting.
Yeah.
You have to approach it like the in and out menu, limited options, but there are some select customizations you can make, and there's also a secret menu.
I'm ordering monster style next
a
time.
very large secret menu.
See, I'm the type of guy who Brad is way into the BDSM thing, and I find it fascinating to watch that happen with various boys that he might encounter. But although I don't partake, it's like I just want to get in and have fun. You know what I mean? And fuck and suck and make each other feel good. That's all I really care about. And so for me, there's a lot of porn that I can enjoy. You know what I mean? In that I don't have to like narrow in on one thing.
Here's the thing. Even though there are some downsides, I mean, porn has been a super positive thing for us. Growing up on a farm in Michigan, and Jim hears me say that a lot. I never thought that I would be doing porn as an adult. And we've been putting videos out for 11 years now. And it's just something we enjoy doing and we enjoy that people enjoy. Like anything, I think there's always going to be downsides, like the guy who comes up to you in hospitality and is like, you have 332 freckles on your body, and I've mapped out all of them.
Oh, boy.
But for the most part, it's a super positive thing. So like to any big guys who are maybe out there and who are kind of like, seen big guy porn out there, I've thought about maybe putting something out, as long as like your job and your family like won't necessarily be threatened or affected, I would love to see you do that. I think everybody would love to see more big guy and chaser content out there. So I'm, along the porn question, every time I do a search on Pornhub or wherever I go for porn, it's just so nice to put in the words chub and just see hundreds and hundreds of videos appearing now.
Yeah.
Can I just put in a word here? I feel like we have to, I need to make a disclaimer about events because it's sounding like events are these horrible fetishistic orgies that why would anybody want to go to that? Can I just say that there are just as many people on the other side of the spectrum who are so terrified and so shy that they're hiding behind the plants and they're just trying to work up the nerve to come out from behind the plant. And so you do get the extremes at both ends.
Yes.
Or like Trevor hiding in the bushes with his pizza crust.
I love that.
Hissing at people.
Hissing.
As far as events go, I always, feel for the guys like you mentioned, Dan, that are just kind of wallflower, just kind of too shy to even put themselves in the hospitality suite, for instance, or they might just walk through and not even look at anybody. And I think that's awful. And if there's an opportunity for me to just say hi to somebody and smile and make them feel more welcome, great. No sexual anything, no pressure. That's fine. But these events, you're right, Dan, these aren't just giant, massive orgies. These are kind of a choose your own social and sexual, if you want, adventure, right? Mostly social. It's 95% social and 5% sexual. And like that's been my experience.
Yeah,
You'll laugh, but Dan was telling me some of the things about these events, and I was a little nervous. And then he's like, "And then there's a game room," and I'm like,
so
"I'm in."
So-
game room, yes.
And for the listeners, I really do mean a game room. That's not a euphemism for something.
Yes.
It really
really
is.
would that be a
It really
euphemism?
is so wonderful. I refer to it as a choose your own adventure because you can make it whatever you want it to be. If you just want to see the four walls of your room and a parade of guys coming in and out, you could make that situation probably happen. If you want to balance your time between social and sexual, super easy to do. Best advice I have is just make hay while the hay is, there for the making. Take advantage. Don't stick on the wall, the whole event and then be mad that nobody
And then
talked to you
complain. Yeah.
and complain that the event is terrible.
I've thought a long time about maybe writing something that's sort of like a guide for people who have concerns about the event. They want to know how to navigate the event because there are certain. Because an event is just a different space. No one is equipped to go to an event given their daily life. It's just a different situation.
That's why we're going to be doing a whole episode on events.
That's
Oh
right.
my gosh,
That's true.
that
Yes.
sounds amazing! I can't wait to listen
Yes.
to that episode.
Yeah.
A list of tips would be a great start.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think I'm gonna do. Yeah.
Yeah, and the upside is if you do porn as well, people might recognize you at the event, and you just get some new friends. So
I was
Even if you don't do porn.
yeah, I like that. I like the idea that doing porn has a variety of different benefits and values depending on why you're in it and why you start, but also just the baseline contributing to the normalization of different body types doing all kinds of sexy things that doesn't yes, there is a reason why fetishes are so hot because they are something you can tune into that isn't the mainstream, but also bringing just the broader acceptance of what's quote unquote normal or acceptable up to the level where somebody who shows up at an event who might have been uncomfortable in their own skin is maybe less so and is maybe able to have that first hello instead of just fading into the background, maybe a little afraid. Like if we can keep people moving in the direction of self-acceptance and normalizing fat bodies, I think that is gold.
That's very well said. And you're right. Like just expanding that envelope of what's acceptable, normal, and pleasurable, right? And just kind of expand that into more inclusive of other body types.
Absolutely.
Speaking of making things inclusive for all bodies, I have a really great tip today.
Ooh, what's your tip?
So this is from Mechanic Shop Femme, who is a lovely fat lady who is doing a survey on cars for bigger bodies. And she is asking people to submit information about the cars they drive on this form. She's asking for people, women over a size 24 and men over 46.
Okay.
And how they carry their weight, pant size, etc. And basically her hope is to create a database of fat-friendly cars. There is a video she shared on Instagram, which I'll have Michael splice in the audio.
Being fat means I'm 80% more likely to die in a car crash and often won't even be able to fit the seatbelt in a car. It's your favorite queer automotive educator, and while I can't fix that, I am studying the best cars for bigger bodies and using that data to create a database to help folks find cars that fit in a non-humiliating way.
I think this is the coolest thing in the world because it's so specific that it's going to be incredibly helpful.
Yes.
It's not like there's value to like a broad study of whatever, but this is like so tuned into what will actually help somebody if this is like they're looking for. Like Dan, we talked about this like a few months ago, but you guys are looking for a new car that'll be more comfortable for Trevor without having to be, a boat.
Well, and what drives me crazy is even if you get a boat, it's the same size chair. It's the same tiny little bucket seat with, acres of console. That's not what I want in a car.
Cars can be very deceptive. I remember when I was shopping for a car, the Volkswagen Beetle was one of the biggest cars interiors that I encountered.
Because it's a sphere, yes.
It was enormous.
Well,
but it
John,
looked small on the outside.
I love that you called it out. I was car shopping about 5 years ago, and I really had my heart set on a Mustang. But I was like, there's no way that car is going to be big enough for a big guy like me. and I got in that car to test drive it, and I was perfectly comfortable. I'm like,
Oh,
they have
I'd
all
love to hear
kinds of
that.
room.
Oh,
So, you know, but it is one of those things where it's like Jim was car shopping a year ago. We were trying to find something comfortable for us both. And as a big guy, it is so embarrassing to have to like sit in the seat and check the seatbelt while the salesperson's wondering, what the fuck are you like doing? You know, why are you getting into 8 different kinds of car? You know,
It's daunting. It
is.
It's a daunting task for a big guy to be able to find a car that, number one, that they like and want to drive, and number two, you know, that fits them, right?
Yep.
So how cool that this video is coming out. Thanks for putting that on the radar.
I think that's
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, gentlemen, would you care to join us for our bit today? I'm hoping you'll stick around.
Oh, sure.
Please do.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You'll have
It,
us.
as an homage to you, I have combed the internet. I have looked high and low to find the best possible porn movie titles of all time. All right. So what we have here is a list of some. They're all porn parody movies because, you know, you need to know what we're getting into here. But so I'm going to present a list of 5 movies to you, 4 of which are real, 1 of which is not. And the game is figure out which of these titles is not actually a porn movie. All right.
Okay.
So starting out, I thought we'd go into the world of adventure movie porn parodies. All right. These are fun. We have the YA. They're refreshing. They're action filled. They're great. So
Indiana Boner.
we have Harry Squatter and the Sorcerer's Bone.
I feel like I've heard of that before. I don't know how or why, but
Shaving Ryan's Privates.
we've yes. Okay.
Yes.
Missionary Impossible. Drill Bill. And Topping Gunner.
Okay.
4
So we're
of
looking for
these
the one
are
that's-
real. And yes, it is possible you've heard them before. I've intentionally picked some ones that are kind of famous on some of them.
Yeah.
So I think the fake one is Topping Gunner.
Topping Gunner.
I second that. Yeah, I think the 5th option.
Third that.
3 of you. 3 of you are on Topping
Okay.
Gunner. 4.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God, it's unanimous.
I
Topping
know.
Gunner.
I know for a fact that Drill Bill is real. I'm pretty sure we've seen clips of that one. But watch me be wrong.
Okay.
Watch me be wrong.
All right. The answer is Topping Gunner. You are all correct.
Yay.
Everybody gets 1 point. Ding, ding, ding.
You know what I think it
It's
is?
a wash.
I picked it because I couldn't imagine an American knowing that there's a name Gunner, like Gunner.
I just want to hear.
Oh.
I just want to hear the line in the movie. Talk to me, Luce.
Well, I've actually done searches on all of these, so I've confirmed that there are not movies because I came up with a big list of the fake ones here, and almost all of them had been made. I was shocked.
Nothing goes to waste.
Moving, just to show that it's not all movies, we'll do one section of TV shows. So in case you're more of a TV person, which of these is the fake? Orange is the New Bareback. Buffy the Vampire Layer.
Nice.
Gay of Thrones. Dawson's Crack. Or Dynastud.
Oh, number 2, Buffy.
Buffy. We have 1 for Buffy.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Buffy because I know I've heard that as a joke before.
Okay, we got 2 for Buffy.
Orange.
Orange the
is
New
the
Bareback.
New
We got 1 for the Orange the New Bareback.
I'm going for Dynastud.
Got 1 for Dynastud.
I'm gonna say Buffy because of the legal trademark issues of using Buffy.
Buffy. Yeah, the title. I think
Okay.
it's very clever.
All right. And the correct answer, the fake show is Orange is the New Bareback.
Oh,
Jim pulls into the
Jim.
lead. Well done, sir.
pulling ahead.
Jim getting it right when it comes to barebacking. Who knew?
Yeah. Man.
I just
Gotta
thought
have
it
some
was too much
experience.
of a leap to turn a show primarily about where any sex in it was lesbian sex into a bareback gay male sex.
I was
That's a good
thinking
point.
that.
Good thinking. We have a little
That's a
strategery
really-
going on here.
You're thinking about this a lot more than
a
I
little
ever
too
have.
logical, right?
All right. So let's bring some classic movie parodies into this. So of these 5, Tits a Wonderful Life,
Oh, God.
Legally Boned, Forrest Hump, 12 Years a Sex Slave,
Oh, no.
Oh,
or Ass
Oh,
Ventura
no.
Crack Detective.
I had 12 years just because that's like,
That hurts my heart.
I don't think anyone has that poor taste.
Oh, ye of little faith.
You underestimate this world we live in.
I'm going to say Tits a Wonderful Life just because that also kind of kills my soul a little bit to think that somebody made that into a porn.
What was the last one, Don? The last time?
Ass Ventura Crack Detective.
Yeah. I like that too much not to vote for it.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Tits a Wonderful Life.
We got 2 for Tits a Wonderful Life. And the correct answer is 12 Years a Sex.
Aha! I knew it.
I mean, I guess I can be okay with that.
All right.
Being the fake
I just
one.
hate that, as usual, Trevor's always right.
The porn industry has some class.
We got 2 more. Moving from classic movies, of course, horror movies are going to be parodied in porn because why not?
Oh, naturally.
So which of the following 5 is fake? Night of the Giving Head,
Okay, that's solid.
Porntergeist,
Jesus.
Texas Vibrator Massacre,
Oh, dear.
The Nightmare Before XXXmas,
Solid.
or Michael, call back. You wanted this earlier in the show. Raiders of the Lost Arse.
Yay. What was the second one again? I forgot. the title of the damn-
Porntergeist.
Yeah, that's my vote.
I'm going to say,
Porntergeist.
Porntergeist.
What was the third one?
Third one was Texas Vibrator Massacre.
That's what I want to pick.
I want that one.
Yeah, Jim and me.
Okay.
And the correct answer is Porntergeist.
Yay.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Pull him back.
Ouch.
Incidentally, if you Google any of these, there are actually movie posters for all of them. Okay. And to end on a wholesome note, our family-friendly kids movie and show parodies.
Oh,
boy.
dear.
Oh no.
Ugh.
4 of these are real. 1 of them is not. Dick and Morty,
Okay.
Pokemon, Gag on Ball Z,
Oh boy.
Tugrats,
They're babies.
or Inspect Her Gadget.
Ouch.
I have to say Tugrats just because, like, ugh.
All right, we've got 1 for Tugrats.
I'll go with Tugrats.
We got 2 for Tugrats.
Make
I'm
that
gonna say-
3.
3 for Tugrats.
Gag on Ball Z.
We got 1 for Gag on
I
Ball
don't
Z.
even. I'm so unplugged. I don't even know what that's parodying. I'm going to go with Trevor because I should listen to my husband.
Yeah.
All right. The correct answer. We've got 3 for Tugrats. We've got 2 for Gag on Ball Z. Did anyone dare unseat Trevor as the king? The correct answer is Gag on Ball Z.
Oh, nice.
Damn it.
Okay.
Trevor is the king. Well done, sir.
Yes.
Well done.
As I like to call it, the secret to my marriage.
Well, and don't forget, Tugrats is a real thing if you want to go look at that.
Oh my gosh.
Should be
No,
your,
I do
not-
It
not.
is an adult cast, but one of them is wearing diapers.
should be your thumbnail.
So, Brad, Jim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was a really delightful conversation. If you guys want to check out Brad and Jim's podcast, it's the Movie Bears podcast. They're really fun. May even be making a cameo on their podcast coming up, but stay tuned for that. We're figuring out logistics at some
How do we
Nice.
see your porn? How do we see your porn?
You can find us on Twitter at BigBearNChaser, so the letter N, as well as on Pornhub. Just search for Big Bear in Chaser.
Guys, thanks so much for having us on. We had a blast. You guys are so easy to talk to. This was wonderful.
So glad to have you here.
Thanks for coming.
So
Thanks.
if our listeners out there have any suggestions for our guests or want to just share with us their favorite porn parodies, Trevor, where would they do that?
We're on Twitter and Instagram as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us 5 stars there. Leave us 5 stars on Apple. What are they? Apple Podcast. Leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcast. A review too. It's been a while since anyone's left one. Stitcher, whatever. See the articles we referenced at www.bigfatgaypod.com. Maybe you're listening as you're in a car that accommodates your girth or your partner's girth. But there's a knock at the door, and it's Michael, because it's always Michael in these scenarios.
A knock at the door.
And he's gonna touch you. So
Whoa.
Watch out.
Watch out. Super watch out.